All right, everyone, it is time. Going to be getting into the first look build for week 1 of the NFL DFS season. And so through 2 weeks of preseason, I feel like we have a really good sample size of which players we should be going in on for week 1. We have a lot of great price discounts, it would seem. So for me right now, what I'm looking at the quarterback position is really looking at 3 quarterbacks. If we want to pay up, and I say pay up, 5.9 for Russell Wilson, that is not too much. He does get a good matchup going against the Las Vegas Raiders, a team in which he had 10.68 against in week 11 last year, which wasn't good. But look at his stats. Like, he had a good game, just didn't have a touchdown in that game. And then we look at his other game against Las Vegas in week 4, one of his best games, if not his best game of the season last year. We expect this offense to be better, and I expect him to be able to give us at least 3x, at least 18 DraftKings points. But I really don't think we need to go that route. I think we can easily save and go with one of these other quarterbacks, and to me, it comes down to either Sam Howell or Jordan Love. Both have kind of looked as expected, I would say, this preseason, but both have maybe looked a little bit better than a lot of people had expected. Jordan Love is someone I've been high on. He gets a great matchup going against the Chicago Bears, and I personally like him a little bit better just because we don't know the status of Terry McLaurin, although it does feel like a toss-up. If you guys end up wanting to go with Sam Howell, that's perfectly fine. I think that those are going to be the 2 clear-cut options, but for now, let's go with Jordan Love. All right, so now that we have our quarterback for week 1, let's go and get into our running backs for week 1. Now, the biggest issue that I have with the running back position is that we have a lot of good options, I would say, and it's going to be very easy to just pay up for CMC and also Austin Eckler. I'll get into that as the video progresses, but I just want to call out which other running backs I'd be going on my way to play. I do think Aaron Jones against Chicago is a very good spot. If you go with Sam Howell at your quarterback spot, then I think we could easily go with Aaron Jones. Obviously, don't really want to double dip the chip with Jordan Love and Aaron Jones, although I think Aaron Jones will be heavily involved in the passing game this season. So from there, I do think we are going to get some pretty good values. I would say Raheem Mostert is actually going to be one of the better values. Devin Achane is someone that got injured in the preseason, and all signs point to Raheem Mostert being the top running back in this offense. With Jeff Wilson a little bit banged up as well, we could easily see Raheem Mostert get a pretty big workload. Like, if you can get 18 carries in this offense, that'd be huge. And the biggest takeaway as well is that every single running back in this offense has looked good thus far in the preseason. That should mean good things for Mostert. Now, maybe you don't want to pay up that much for him. I perfectly understand that, okay? Maybe you want to go with Khalil Herbert. I think I'd be fine with that. We do have to worry. He might be in a 3-headed monster with Foreman and Roschon Johnson, who has looked really good. So maybe you don't want to touch that. I think Brian Robinson is at a great price tag. And heck, we could easily end up going with Zamir White if Josh Jacobs is out, because White has looked good thus far this preseason. He's been one of the more impressive players thus far this preseason. I'd be fine with that. If you guys want to roll with that, I understand it. And then for what it's worth, like, Deion Jackson could be in for a very big workload in week 1. Jonathan Taylor has requested a trade. It doesn't seem like he is going to be an Indianapolis Colts player this season. With Zach Moss currently banged up, it really just leaves Deion Jackson to be the RB1. I know some people are going to say Evan Hall might be the option there. Maybe it might be a 1A, 1B situation. I guess I should say 1C. That's not even, it'd be like a 3A and 3B situation, because they're not starters. I mean, Deion Jackson, he's a good third down running back, someone that I do think would be involved in the passing game as well. Obviously, you wouldn't expect the Colts to be up in this game. You probably expect them to be trailing from behind. Thus, Deion Jackson would actually be a very good play. So he is someone at 4.1 I am definitely interested in playing. But for now, like I said, I think we might just easily be able to play it safe and go CMC and Austin Eckler at the running back position. So that's what I'll be doing this week. You got CMC there as our RB1, and then we have Austin Eckler as our RB2. They're kind of interchangeable. Those are going to be 3 or 2 great options for you. You could go Deion Jackson in the flex as well. So to me, if we are playing Jordan Love in the quarterback spot, we probably do want to be trying to play either Christian Watson, who's at a very cheap price tag, against the Chicago Bears, a team that he really dominated last year, going for 24 points, and then got injured in the game in week 2 against them, 3.9 there. That seems like a cheap price tag for him, especially in that matchup. But we have seen Romeo Doubs go out and have a really good preseason thus far as well. He did last year, so let's not get too excited about it, but he is someone that I could see putting up 10 DK points, maybe not exactly 3x, but he should be a super safe play. The issue with that is we have so many other good players that should be safe plays as well. One thing that stood out to me in the preseason thus far is that it does seem like DJ Chark is kind of the receiver number 1 in this offense. That might not mean much, but very solid price tag for him. Someone that I do expect to get close to being able to 3x at this price tag. That's something we would take. This is the kind of stuff that allows us to be able to pay up for 2 studs at a running back position. I'm not saying we have to do that. I would actually rather go with some of these safer options. I think Nico Collins is going to be the receiver number 1 in this offense. I do think there's a good chance he gets us double-digit DraftKings points. But the player that I think we're going to have to start our builds with, especially if McLaurin is out in this week 1 game against Arizona, is Jahan Dotson. We see him really tear it up thus far as preseason. preseason. He was a first-round receiver for them for a reason. He has proved that thus far this preseason. It seems like Sam Howell is going to be targeting a bunch. And obviously, we don't expect that Arizona Cardinals team to be that good. So Jahan Dotson is going to be the first receiver that we are going out of our way to roster this week. From there, I mentioned I do really like Russell Wilson, but that's because I think Cortland Sutton is just vastly too cheap. You look at the 2 games against Las Vegas last year, and I know it's not a true indication of how they're going to play this season, but he had 2 pretty solid games against the Las Vegas Raiders. And I think we all expect this team to be better, this offense to be better. It can't be much worse, right? Cortland Sutton should be someone that averages around 7 targets per game. He is probably going to be their number 1 receiver. I keep saying that. A lot of people might think it's Jerry Jeudy. It's a good argument, although I think it's just interchangeable. It might matter on which game it is. I'd rather go with the one that's significantly cheaper in this scenario. That is Cortland Sutton. You look at kind of how Prize Picks sees these 2 in week 1. They see Cortland Sutton getting 58.5 yards, and they see Jerry Jeudy getting 63.5. So not a big separation. That tells me the pricing is probably wrong on DraftKings. So to me, Cortland Sutton is kind of an easy receiver number 2 selection for us. And then from there, I do want to call just 2 other players real quick. We got Chris Godwin, who should be a super safe play. I know Baker Mayfield's not the best, but the target share still should be there for him. I think he's going to be a super safe play. And I do want to mention, like, Mike Williams has been someone that is going to be operating out of the slot this season. And if that happens, I think we might be seeing him be a more consistent fantasy producer. If that occurs, guys, this is probably going to be his cheapest price of the whole season. And then lastly, reports have been coming out that Michael Thomas has really been dominating in camp, and they get a good matchup against Tennessee. Like, he could be someone that easily gives us 2x with the upside for, you know, what he did in week 1 and week 2 last year. But because I think we'll have the salary left over to do so, I'm actually just going to go with Tyreek Hill, who I kind of see as the receiver in week 1 I want to be targeting the most, just because he's a little bit cheaper than Justin Jefferson, gets a good matchup against the Chargers in a game that I think is going to be higher scoring. One of the higher scoring games on the slate. He had 24.1 points against them in week 1 last year. We don't expect the role to change at all. He's going to be healthy going into this week. So is Tua. That's going to bode well for him in week 1. So our lineup is coming together pretty well. Let's go ahead and close it out at the tight end position and with a flex. So tight end wise, guys, I don't want to pay up at tight end typically, because we can typically find tight ends that are just simply too cheap. And right now, as it seems, we probably are going to have 2. So we got to see if Logan Thomas is going to play. If he sits, then once again, we do have like a good stack here, potentially with Washington. But Cole Turner has been someone that has been heavily involved thus far this preseason. We get him at the min price. He'd be a great option to not only 2x, but to 3x as well. Honestly, that'd probably be an easy plug and play if Logan Thomas does sit, especially if McLaurin is out as well. Okay, that's going to be the issue, is that we might have to just default to Sam Howell then if we're going with the insane value that's available for the Washington Commanders. But that being said, I do think Luke Musgrave, I know he gets a tough matchup against the Chicago Bears, but he is someone that I think is going to be heavily involved. I typically hate rookie tight ends. I think Kyle Pitts has been someone that has been overhyped a bunch lately because he's just too young. Like, it takes a while for players to develop at the tight end position. We see it all the time. TJ Hawkinson finally broke out last year. Evan Ingram finally broke out last year. Like, those are good tight end prospects that just, it took a while for them to get it right. So I hate targeting rookie tight ends. That being said, the offense does seem to be kind of flowing through Musgrave. It sounds weird to say, but that's kind of what we've seen thus far this preseason. So at his current price of 2.9, with us wanting to target Jordan Love at his price point, we want to be using one of his pass catchers. I think I'd be fine with Musgrave. And just for what it's worth, guys, Jawan Johnson is also a pretty cheap tight end play we could roll with. So at defense, my strategy is typically to always go with the cheapest defense. So what we're going to do is we're going to go with the Texans defense. So now that leaves us with 4.5 left over to close out our flex spot. And guys, that's going to be pretty easy to do. Like I mentioned, like for now, I'd probably go Dobbs until we get news on whether or not Deion Jackson is going to be the starter. So it goes either or. I guess for now, I'll assume that he is going to be the starter because based off of the information that we have, he's going to be the one that looks like he's starting. And so there we go. We have our first look build for week 1 in the book. Now, obviously, this is something that can change throughout the week up until week 1 on Sunday, given the information that we have, given some injury news that we have. We'll be examining how certain defenses looked with their starters and backups in the preseason as well. That could change some things here and there. But for now, I think we have a very solid base build for our week 1 lineup. Just to remind you guys of the promo code that is going on currently on the 9to5 website. Using this promo code for you guys will give you 50% off your first 9to5 membership. This will give you access to things like the NFL DFS lineup optimizer, the cheat sheet, the NFL props, once those are available and whatnot. So that's all coming up for week 1. So make sure to take advantage of that. Playoffs is the promo code, and that's going to be because the Tour Championship in golf is really here this week. And then after this week, this promo code will be gone. That's going to be all I have for this video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. If you did, you know what to do. Give that like and subscribe. Let's have a good slate in week 1. And as always, guys, let's keep cashing.